I canceled your son's procedure. Too expensive, my mom texted. I read it standing at the admissions desk of the children's hospital with my kid next to me in those thin paper scrubs, clutching his stuffed T-Rex. For a second, my brain just refused to process the words. Then the receptionist cleared her throat. "Sir, I'm not sure what's going on," she said, eyes flicking from her screen to Evan. "But it says here the surgery was canceled on Tuesday. The note says father called, said it was too expensive. Wants to manage with meds." Evan's head snapped up. "You canceled it?" he asked. His voice cracked on the last word. My hand started shaking. I could feel my heartbeat in my teeth. "No, buddy," I said. "I didn't cancel anything." The receptionist looked uncomfortable, like she wanted to help but also didn't want to get in the middle of a family mess. People in the waiting room had started to look over. "Sir, you're Carl?" She checked my wristband and ID. "Carl Meyer?" "Yeah, that's me." She turned the monitor a little so I could see. My full name, my birthday, my phone number, all correct. Under caller, father, under reason, too expensive. We'll just deal with it. They'd blocked off OR time, nurses, anesthesiologist. 6 months of waiting. Pre-op appointments. We'd done everything they asked. And on the inside notes, in smaller text, a line that made my stomach turn. Caller identified himself as patient's grandmother's son, confident with details. My mom, she'd called, pretending to be me. I looked down at my phone again, at her text sitting right on top of the screen. "I canceled your son's procedure. Too expensive. You can just deal with it. No need to waste $8,400. No emojis. No question marks. Just a decision she'd already made for us." Evan sucked in a breath. "Am I too expensive?" he whispered. That was the moment the world tilted. Not the money, not the schedule. That sentence out of my kid's mouth. I swallowed hard. "Can we sit for a minute?" I asked the receptionist. "I need to make some calls." She nodded and pointed to a row of blue chairs. I walked Evan over, sat him down, and told him I'd be right there. Then I stepped 3 feet away, turned my back to him, and finally let my face show what I was feeling. My mom had actually done it, and this time I wasn't just going to swallow it and move on. "I'm Carl, 36, and I fix cars for a living in Wichita, Kansas. I'm the guy with grease under his nails even after he showers, the guy who can tell you exactly what's wrong with your engine after you describe a weird sound for 10 seconds. I'm also a single dad to a 9-year-old boy named Evan who was born with a vascular malformation in his leg. It's not life-threatening, but it makes walking painful, and if we don't stay on top of it, it'll mess with his bones as he grows." The surgery they'd scheduled for that Friday was supposed to help with the pain and keep things from getting worse. Outpatient, but specialized. $8,400 total before insurance, 6 months on the waiting list. It was our 3rd attempt at scheduling. The first time, insurance dragged its feet. The second time, Evan got the flu. This slot felt like a small miracle. My mom, Linda, never saw it that way. She's 61, lives 15 minutes away, in a 2-bedroom bungalow with my older brother, Rick. Officially, Rick helps with the house. In reality, he plays video games, works part-time when he feels like it, and smokes through the rest of the day. They call me the responsible one. By responsible, they mean wallet. When Dad died 3 years ago, I paid the funeral home the $4,200 they were short. I put new tires on Mom's Camry every winter. The joint emergency credit card? She has the card. I get the bill. When Rick's transmission blew, I covered $1,600 in parts at cost and let him pay the labor later. Later never came. On paper, I'm a mechanic. In practice, I've been my family's bailout fund since I turned 25. And Evan? To them, Evan is extra. Extra noise, extra cost, extra complication. When he was 5 and had his first procedure, Mom showed up at the hospital, took one look at the bill folder on my lap, and said, "All this for a leg? In my day, we just prayed and learned to live with things." When he needed custom orthotics, Rick actually laughed. "Man, those things cost more than my PS5. Kids got expensive feet. They never remembered his birthday without a reminder." I still have screenshots of the first time Mom texted, "Happy Bay Day, Evan," a full 24 hours late. When I told her it hurt his feelings, she said, "He's a child. He'll forget." They never forgot, though, when I was a day late on the money. $200 a month toward Mom's utilities, $150 for Rick's truck insurance. Random, can you just send $80 till Friday texts? That added up to more than my own grocery bill some months. I told myself they were family. I told myself this was what good sons did. I told myself all of that right up until last fall, when the pattern finally cracked. It started with another bill that wasn't mine. Rick got picked up for a DUI, his second in 3 years. I was closing up the shop when he called. "Bro, you gotta help me," he slurred. "Bond's $500 now, but the lawyer says he needs at least $2,000 by Monday to start." I stared at the invoice I was holding for Evan's pre-op MRI. It had a nice bold total at the bottom. $1,150 after insurance, due before surgery. "I can't, Rick," I said. "I've got the deposit for Evan's procedure. We've been waiting 6 months for this slot." He snorted. "So you pick a leg over your own brother. Wow." Then Mom got on the line. "Carl, sweetie, you know your brother's had a hard time. God doesn't like to see families abandon each other. You'll get another surgery date. This is now." I took a breath. "No," I said. "I'm not touching Evan's money. He needs this." It got cold real fast. "That boy has you wrapped around his little finger," Mom snapped. "Kids are resilient. Rick's future is on the line. You're being selfish." We ended the call with her hanging up on me. I paid the MRI. I put the rest of the surgery money aside. I went back to rotating tires and changing oil and pretending that line we'd crossed could somehow be uncrossed. After that, the jabs started. Little digs at every dinner. "If you didn't blow so much on doctors, you wouldn't be so stressed. Your son can walk, can't he? Some people lose limbs in war. He should be grateful." If I didn't answer their texts right away, Mom would write, "Too busy counting your surgery money to answer your own mother?" followed by a crying emoji. I thought that was as bad as it would get. Then Tuesday came. Back in the hospital waiting area, I stared at Mom's text. "I canceled your son's procedure. Too expensive. You can just deal with it. No need to waste $8,400. She'd sent it 10 minutes ago. Probably sitting on her couch, daytime TV on, ashtray full. I scrolled up. 3 missed calls from Mom in the last hour. One from Rick, a voicemail I hadn't listened to yet. I hit play. My mom's voice filled my ear, bright and satisfied. "Carl, I fixed it. You were too proud to admit you can't afford that surgery, so I did the hard thing and called for you. I told them it was canceled. They said you can just keep doing his meds and follow-ups. You're welcome. We'll talk later." My vision tunneled. She had actually called. I walked back to the receptionist. "Ma'am," I said softly, so Evan wouldn't hear. "Whoever called wasn't me. My mom has my information. She must have pretended to be me." The woman frowned. "Do you have any proof?" she asked. I turned my phone so she could see the text, the voicemail, the timestamps. Her eyebrows went up. "Okay," she said. "I'm going to get my supervisor." 10 minutes later, I was sitting in a small office with beige walls, while a woman from patient relations and a man in a blazer with a badge that said compliments sat across from me. "Mr. Meyer," the blazer guy said, "I'm sorry this is happening, especially with your son present. Based on what you showed us, this looks like someone misrepresented themselves as you to make medical decisions for your child." "That's what I've been trying not to yell about in the lobby," I said. Evan was in the playroom down the hall with a volunteer building Lego cars, thinking we just had a paperwork mix-up. The compliance guy folded his hands. "We can restore your surgery date," he said. "Because we documented the call as unusual, we held your slot until this morning. Once you walked in and checked in, that helps us. We can move you to Monday, same surgeon, same procedure. You'd only be delayed through the weekend." I exhaled a breath I'd been holding since the front desk. "Okay," I said. "Okay, good. But," he continued, "we are required to document this as potential medical fraud. Your mother used protected information and impersonated you to alter your child's care. That crosses several lines. The word fraud hung in the room." Are you going to press charges?" I asked. "We'll be reporting the incident to our legal department and to your insurance," he said. "They may choose to pursue it. At minimum, your mother will be flagged as someone who cannot make or change decisions on your behalf, and she won't be allowed to access records." I nodded slowly. Good, I said. My voice came out flatter than I expected. Do that. Please do that. They had me sign a statement, attach screenshots of the texts and voicemail, and confirm in writing that my mom did not have and never had legal authority over Evan's care. By the time I walked back out to the blue chairs, my hands had stopped shaking. Evan looked up from a Batman he'd built. Are we going home? He asked. Yeah, buddy, I said. They're going to do your surgery on Monday instead. They had to fix something. Because of Grandma? He asked quietly. I paused. Because of a grown-up who forgot what's important, I said. But we fixed it. On the drive home, my phone buzzed again and again on the console. Mom, Rick. Mom, unknown number. I didn't pick up. I knew exactly what my next moves were going to be. First stop was the credit union. I sat in that little cubicle with the fake plant and the posters about retirement and told the banker I need my mother removed from every account that has my name on it. She clicked around. You and your mother are joint on this family safety net savings, she said. Current balance, $4,380. My stomach twisted. That was supposed to be my emergency fund. The account I'd started when Evan was born. Somewhere along the way, when Mom's rent went up and Rick's hours went down, I'd agreed to add her temporarily so she could move money if something urgent came up. Make it just me, I said. Today. Now. She had me sign a form. I watched the screen change from joint to single owner Carl Meyer. She printed the confirmation. I folded it into my wallet like a shield. Next came the credit card. I need to close this, I said over the phone later in my truck, reading off the numbers of the card Mom used for groceries. The rep told me the balance, $1,972. I could picture exactly what most of it was. Not groceries. Hair appointments, takeout, emergency shoes. Pay it off from my checking, I said, throat tight, then close it, and mark my account so no one can ever be added as an authorized user again. I listened to the hold music, watched Evan in the rearview mirror flipping through a comic. Okay, Mr. Meyer, the rep said finally, that card is now closed. No additional users can be added without your in-person authorization at a branch. Good. Last, I logged into my online banking in the driveway and canceled the 2 outgoing automatic transfers. Linda Gas/Electric, $200 on the 1st of every month. Rick Auto Ins, $145 on the 15th. A little warning popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? Yes, I confirmed. I took a screenshot. That was it. One afternoon, and the entire financial scaffolding my mom and brother had been leaning on was gone. I wasn't shouting. I wasn't slamming doors. I was just done. Then I sent one text to Mom. You called my son's hospital pretending to be me and canceled his surgery. They rescheduled him. They also reported you for medical fraud. You are off my accounts. You are not allowed to contact his doctor's school or insurance ever again. I won't fund a family that treats my kid like an expense to cut. I put my phone face down on the kitchen table and made Evan grilled cheese. The explosion started less than 10 minutes later. First, a text from Rick. Bro, what did you do? Mom says you snitched on her to the hospital. They called asking questions. Just deal with it. She was trying to help you not go into debt. Then, Mom, you ungrateful child. After everything I've done for you, I made one phone call to save you from a bad financial decision, and now you're trying to get your own mother arrested? Another one, seconds later, you think the hospital cares about that boy? They just see dollar, dollar, dollar. Family looks out for family. I was looking out for you. Then, and what do you mean I'm off your accounts? You can't just cut us off, Carl. The electric is due Friday. Rick's insurance is due next week. Property tax is next month. We're counting on you. Counting on you. That line hit harder than the rest. They weren't counting on me to show up for Evan's surgery. They weren't counting on me to hold his hand in pre-op. They weren't counting on me to juggle L&I protocols and cross my fingers in waiting rooms. They were counting on the transfer that hit like a second paycheck. I didn't respond. At 7 p.m., while Evan was in the tub, my phone lit up with Mom calling. Then Rick. Then Mom again. Then unknown. Voicemails piled up. I listened to one from Rick while I folded towels. Look, man, he said, trying for reasonable. Yeah, what Ma did was out of line. But it's not like he died. He's getting the surgery, right? Just drop whatever complaint you made and turn my insurance back on. You know they can't survive without your help. Be real. I laughed out loud, alone in my hallway. I'd been being real for 10 years. Real broke, real tired, real drained from holding everyone's life together but my own. Later that night, the doorbell rang. Evan was in bed. Finally, I checked the peephole. Mom and Rick on my porch, arms crossed, wearing matching angry faces. I stepped outside and pulled the door quietly shut behind me. We're not doing this inside, I said. Evan's asleep. Mom launched right in. You went too far, she hissed. Those people at the hospital acted like I was some criminal. They said the word fraud. To me, your mother. You impersonated me to cancel my son's surgery, I said. My voice stayed calm. That's not just helping. That's illegal. It was too expensive, she snapped. You were going to throw $8,400 at a leg when we can't even keep up with the bills? You'd let your own family drown for a procedure he might not even need. You're not my financial planner, I said. You don't get to decide where my money goes. And you don't get to make medical decisions for my kid. Rick cut in. You could have just let it go, he said. Just tell the hospital it was a misunderstanding. You didn't have to sick the suits on her. You made everything 100 times worse. I thought about the look on Evan's face when he asked if he was too expensive. No, I said. She did that all by herself. Mom's eyes narrowed. So that's it? She demanded. You're really going to abandon us because I made one mistake over a surgery he's still getting? I looked at both of them. I'm not abandoning anybody, I said. I'm finally stepping out of the role you shoved me into. I'm not your backup bank. I'm not your emergency fund. I'm Evan's dad. Every dollar I have goes toward keeping his life stable, not patching the holes you keep poking in your own. Rick scoffed. You think you're better than us now because you got some fancy hospital and a little savings? I shook my head. I don't think I'm better, I said. I think I'm done. Mom's face crumpled into something almost like hurt. You'll regret this, she said. Blood is blood. When that boy grows up and leaves you, remember who was really there for you. I thought about every night I'd worked late so I could take Evan to his appointments. Every weekend I'd skipped beer with the guys to get school clothes. Every time I'd sat in a plastic chair while he winced through physical therapy. I already know who's there for me, I said. You can go now. I opened the door just enough to step back inside. Mom stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Then she turned and stomped down the steps. Rick made a rude gesture over his shoulder. I locked the door. Evan's bedroom door was cracked. He was awake, little face peeking out. Was that Grandma? He whispered. Yeah, I said. We were talking. Is she mad? She's upset I said no, I said. But sometimes grown-ups need to hear no. He thought about that, then nodded slowly. Are we still doing my surgery? He asked. Monday morning, I said. First thing. I already talked to them. No one's canceling anything ever again. Okay, he said, and crawled back into bed. I sat in the hallway for a while after that, just listening to him breathe, feeling the house finally go still. Monday came faster than I expected. My friend and coworker, Jenna, insisted on driving us. You're not white-knuckling that steering wheel alone again, she'd said at the shop. Consider it my overtime. She showed up at 5:30 a.m. with a travel mug of coffee for me and a new Hot Wheels car for Evan. For after, she told him, when your new leg's superpowers kick in. At the hospital, there were no mix-ups this time. Check-in was smooth. My file had a big red note on it now. No phone changes accepted. Father in-person consent required. The compliance guy even came down to shake my hand. Mr. Meyer, he said, we've finalized our report. Your mother may get a letter from her insurer. That's between them now. But your son is all clear. Thanks, I said, for taking it seriously. He nodded. Too many people assume we'll look the other way if it's just family. We don't. Evan kissed his T-Rex for luck and let the nurse wheel him back. I sat in the waiting room with Jenna, staring at the clock. How you holding up? She asked. I keep thinking about all the times I told myself they'd change, I said. Like if I just gave a little more, they'd finally treat him like he mattered. Some people only see you as what you can give them, she said. Once you stop giving, you find out what you really are to them. What's that? I asked. She shrugged. expendable. 2 hours later, the surgeon came out, still in scrubs, hair under a blue cap. Everything went well, he said. We reduced some of the malformation, relieved the pressure. He'll be sore, but this should help his pain long term. I exhaled so hard my chest hurt. When they finally let me back to see him, Evan was dozing, leg wrapped, monitors beeping softly, his hair stuck up on one side. He was clutching the T-Rex under the blanket. "Hey, buddy," I whispered, brushing his hair back. His eyes cracked open. "Did we do it?" he slurred. "Yeah," I said. "We did it." He studied my face like he was checking if I was telling the truth. "You didn't cancel," he murmured, half asleep. "Not in a million years," I said. On the bedside table were 2 identical wristbands, mine and his. I slid mine off and put it in my wallet next to the bank confirmation. Little plastic circle. Big shift. On the way out later, Jenna nudged me. "You look different," she said. "Older?" I joked. "Lighter," she said. "Like somebody finally took an engine block off your chest." Maybe she was right. The fallout from my boundary didn't end overnight. Mom left voicemails off and on for weeks. The first few were angry. The next ones were pitiful. "I could get evicted, Carl. Is that what you want? Your brother's insurance lapsed. If he gets pulled over, that'll be on your conscience. You're letting them treat me like a criminal. I'm your mother." I didn't answer. Once, she texted a screenshot of a past transfer circling the amount. This is what real family does. I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it. Rick tried a different angle. "Look, man, forget the surgery stuff. Can you at least float us till tax season, just a couple months? You know I'll pay you back." I finally sent him one message. "I'm done funding you. Get a job or sell the truck. I have a kid to take care of." He replied with a string of insults I didn't bother reading. Word got around the extended family like it always does. One of my aunts called out of the blue. "I heard there was a situation with your mom," she said, in that careful tone people use when they're digging for gossip. I started to brace myself, but then she added, "For what it's worth, I'd have called the hospital too. She's been crossing lines for years. She just finally hit something she couldn't smooth over with tears." We ended up talking for an hour. About Evan. About Dad. About how I'd basically been paying to be treated like a stranger. "You know you're allowed to choose your own family now, right?" she said before we hung up. "Not just the one you were born into." A month later, Evan had his follow-up appointment. The doctor said he was healing well. They adjusted his meds. He walked out of the office a little stiff, but without the limp that used to show up by lunchtime. On the way home, he asked, "Do we have to go to Grandma's for Easter this year?" I gripped the wheel. "No," I said. "We don't have to go anywhere you don't feel safe or wanted." He stared out the window for a second. "Can we just stay home?" he asked. "Maybe invite Aunt Lisa and Joey? Lisa is my cousin, the one who used to drop by the shop and sneak Evan candy when Mom wasn't looking. Her son Joey is only a year older than Evan. He'd come to visit after the surgery with a stack of comic books and a pack of sour gummy worms." "Yeah," I said, "we can do that." So we did. Easter Sunday didn't look like the pictures in my mom's Facebook albums. No matching outfits, no giant ham, no strained smiles around a table where my kid felt like a guest. Instead, my little rented house smelled like garlic and tomato sauce from the lasagna I'd thrown together. The dining table was covered in cheap plastic eggs and chocolate wrappers. Aunt Lisa showed up with a bowl of salad and a 6-pack of decent beer. Joey came in carrying a board game under one arm and a soccer ball under the other. "Hey, bionic leg," he told Evan. "Race you to the backyard." Evan grinned. He actually ran. Not a limp, not a hobble. A run. A little awkward, but a run. I watched from the kitchen window as they zipped across the patchy grass, laughing. Evan stumbled once, then caught himself and kept going. No wincing, no hand to his thigh. "You okay?" Lisa asked quietly beside me, following my gaze. "Yeah," I said. "For the first time in a long time, I think I am." I'd set the table with 4 plates, and out of habit, 2 extra chairs at the end. I didn't mean to. I just did. During dinner, Joey noticed. "Who are those 4?" he asked, mouth full of garlic bread. I looked at the empty chairs for a long second. "No one," I said finally. "Or maybe reminders." "Of what?" Evan asked. That we don't have to fill every empty seat just because someone shares our last name, I said. We get to choose who eats at our table. He thought about that, then picked up one of his plastic eggs and set it in the middle of the empty plate closest to him. This one's mine, he said, for my leg. For my surgery. I smiled. Fair enough. After dessert, the kids disappeared into Evan's room to trade baseball cards. Lisa rinsed plates while I wiped down the table. You know, she said, your mom's been telling everyone you're being controlled by your mechanic buddies and that the hospital brainwashed you. I snorted. Of course she has. But, Lisa added, I've heard more than one cousin say, good for Carl. That hit me harder than I expected. For years, I'd been the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who showed up with his checkbook and left with leftover guilt. Now, apparently, I was something else. The guy who said enough. Later that night, after everyone left and Evan fell asleep surrounded by candy wrappers and comic books, I sat at the kitchen table alone. I pulled my wallet out and laid two things side by side. The crumpled confirmation from the credit union removing Mom from my account. My faded white hospital wristband with Evan Meyer, father, printed on it. One was about money, the other was about everything else. I slid them both into a small envelope and stuck it to the fridge with a magnet Evan had made in second grade. A crooked car with KRL scrawled under it. I don't know what'll happen with Mom and Rick long term. Maybe they'll calm down. Maybe they'll double down. Maybe some investigator will knock on their door with questions about a phone call they thought was harmless. What I do know is this. My son will never again hear that he's too expensive from the people who should have loved him for free, and I will never again pay the price of keeping the peace with money that should have gone toward his future. They chose to treat him like a line item. I chose to balance a different kind of ledger. And sitting in that quiet kitchen, with Evan's laughter still echoing faintly down the hall, it finally felt like the numbers were starting to add up.